There is a moment forming around you right now, so quiet, so subtle, that if you rush past it, you might not even realize how much has already begun to change. Pause here for just a second, because something is moving behind the surface of your world, something you didn't expect, something you weren't told, and yet, it has everything to do with you. There is a piece of news, not loud, not dramatic on the outside, but deeply powerful in what it sets into motion, and the most surprising part is this: this news was never meant to stay hidden for long. Someone connected to you, closer than you think, has recently come to a realization they could no longer ignore. And that realization, it didn't come easily. It came after long pauses, after moments of silence where words were almost spoken but held back, after thoughts that kept returning, again and again, refusing to disappear. You may not have seen it, but they felt it. A shift, a pull. Something inside them began to rearrange quietly, like pieces of a puzzle finally deciding where they belong. And this is where everything starts to become different. Because the news they are holding, it's not just information. It's a decision, a turning point, a quiet declaration within themselves that things can no longer stay the way they were. Stay with this feeling for a moment, because this isn't about something random or temporary. This is about movement, alignment, something beginning to bring two paths closer without forcing it. You might be wondering, what changed? Why now? Why this sudden shift when things felt uncertain or even still just a short while ago? Here's what most people miss. Not all changes announce themselves. Some changes arrive like a whisper, but carry the weight of something much larger. And this is one of those moments. The news they discovered, or perhaps finally accepted, made them pause in a way they hadn't before. It made them look at you differently, not with confusion, not with hesitation, but with clarity. And clarity, when it finally arrives, it doesn't ask for permission to stay. It simply settles in, and everything around it begins to adjust. You may have felt something recently, a subtle emotional pull, a quiet thought that appeared without explanation, a feeling that something is about to happen but you can't quite explain why. That feeling is not random. It's connected, because while you continue moving through your days, something is already shifting in the background, gently, steadily, bringing alignment closer. Now listen carefully. They didn't expect this realization either. In fact, they tried to ignore it at first. They told themselves it wasn't the right time, that things were complicated, that maybe it was just a passing thought. But the more they tried to move away from it, the stronger it became. Have you ever noticed how certain thoughts don't fade, no matter how much you distract yourself? That's what this was for them. Unavoidable, persistent, and slowly, quietly, undeniable. And then, something happened. Not something dramatic, not something anyone else would notice, but something that shifted everything internally. A moment, a sentence, a memory, a realization that landed deeper than anything before. And in that moment, the news became real. Not something to think about later, not something to question, but something to act on, even if the action hasn't been taken yet. Stay a little longer here, because this is where it becomes important for you. Because while they are processing this, while they are holding this news, something inside them is already beginning to move toward you. Not rushed, not forced, but naturally, like something that was always meant to find its way. And this is why things may start to feel different, even before anything is said. Because energy shifts before words are spoken. Intentions form before actions are visible. And what they are holding right now is quietly influencing the space between you. You might notice small changes, a different tone, A different kind of attention. A pause where there used to be distance. These are not accidents. These are signs of something aligning. Now here's the part that most people overlook. The news they have, it's not just about them. It includes you. In ways they didn't fully understand before, but now, they can no longer ignore. And that realization, it's bringing them closer, faster than they expected. Not because they are rushing, but because once clarity arrives, delay no longer feels comfortable. Think about that for a moment. When you truly understand something, when you finally see what matters, do you keep pretending nothing has changed? And that realization, it's bringing them closer, faster than they expected. Not because they are rushing, but because once clarity arrives, delay no longer feels comfortable. Think about that for a moment. When you truly understand something, when you finally see what matters, do you keep pretending nothing has changed? Or do you begin to move, even if slowly, even if quietly? That's where they are right now. In motion, even if it's not visible yet. And this is why you were drawn to this moment. Because something important is waiting for you, not in the distant future, but closer than you think. You may not know the details yet. You may not know what exactly they will say, or how they will express it. But the direction, the intention, the shift, it has already begun. And once something begins like this, it rarely goes back to how it was before. Now take a deeper breath here, because what comes next is not loud, but it matters more than anything spoken so far. They are not just thinking about what this means. They are starting to feel it. And feelings, when they become real, they don't stay hidden forever. They look for expression. They look for connection. They look for a way to be understood. And slowly, gently, they will find that way. But not all at once, because some things unfold in layers. And this is only the beginning of what is about to be revealed. And just as you start to sense the direction this is heading, there is something else, something unexpected, something within their news that even they are still trying to understand, and once that part comes into light, everything may shift even faster than you imagined. There's a detail within their realization that they haven't spoken aloud, not to anyone, not even fully to themselves, and yet it keeps returning, gently, persistently, like a quiet echo asking to be acknowledged. It didn't arrive as a clear answer, it arrived as a feeling they couldn't explain at first. A sense that something between you and them was never as distant as it once seemed. And that thought, it unsettled them in the most unexpected way. Not because it was negative, but because it was true. Have you ever felt something so real that it made you pause, because accepting it would change everything? That's exactly where they found themselves, standing at the edge of a realization that felt both comforting and impossible to ignore. And this is where their shocking news begins to deepen, because it's no longer just about a decision. It's about what they've started to understand. They began looking back, quietly revisiting moments they once overlooked, small interactions, brief exchanges, even silence between words. And suddenly, those moments started to make sense in a way they hadn't before, as if something had always been there, waiting for the right moment to be seen. You may not realize this yet, but your presence in their life has left a deeper imprint than they ever admitted. Not in obvious ways, but in the subtle ones. In the way your energy stayed with them after conversations ended. In the way your absence felt noticeable, even when they tried to stay busy. In the way certain thoughts about you returned, without invitation. And now, those scattered pieces are coming together. not forcefully, but naturally, almost effortlessly. And this is why things are beginning to accelerate. Because once understanding reaches this level, hesitation starts to fade. They are no longer asking themselves if something is there. They are beginning to ask, why did I take so long to see it? Let that question sit for a moment. Because it carries something powerful within it. It means the resistance they once held is softening. It means the distance they maintained is no longer necessary. It means something inside them is ready to move closer, not out of impulse, but out of recognition. And recognition is different. It's not driven by emotion alone. It's supported by clarity. And clarity has a way of guiding actions without confusion. Now here's where it becomes even more interesting. They didn't plan for this to happen now. In fact, they believed there was still time. Time to wait. Time to think. Time to figure things out slowly. But the moment they received this news, or rather, the moment they understood it, time started to feel different. Not rushed, but meaningful. Not urgent, but important. And when something feels important, it begins to move forward, even without effort. You might begin to notice this soon. A subtle shift in how they approach you, a difference in how they respond, a quiet intention behind their words that wasn't there before. Don't skip past that moment when it happens. Because it will seem small, but it carries something much deeper. This is how real changes begin, not with grand gestures, but with quiet consistency. And what they are building within themselves right now is consistency, a steady movement toward something they can no longer ignore, toward you. Now pause again, because there's another layer here, one that even they are still processing. The news didn't just change how they see you. It changed how they see themselves. And that is where the real transformation begins. Because when someone starts to see themselves differently, their actions follow. They start to question old patterns. They start to release doubts they once held tightly. They begin to step into a version of themselves that feels more aligned, more honest. And in that space, they find the courage to move closer. Not perfectly. Not all at once. But genuinely. You may feel this before you fully understand it. A shift in energy. A sense of openness. A feeling that something is becoming easier, lighter, more natural. That's not coincidence. That's alignment unfolding in real time. And here's something you might not expect. They are becoming aware of how much they almost missed. How close they came to overlooking something that was quietly growing all along. And that awareness, it brings a certain kind of urgency. Not pressure, but appreciation. A desire to not let this pass by unnoticed again. Stay with this for a moment. Because this is where their actions begin to take shape. They are no longer just thinking. They are preparing. Preparing to express, preparing to move, preparing to close the distance that once felt necessary, but now feels unnecessary. And when that preparation reaches its peak, something will shift externally, a conversation, a message, an unexpected moment that carries more meaning than it seems on the surface. And when it happens, you'll recognize it, not because it will be dramatic, but because it will feel right, familiar in a way you didn't expect, like something that was always meant to happen, finally finding its moment. But before that moment arrives, there is still one more realization they are facing. One that holds even more weight than everything before, because it's not just about what they feel. It's about what they are ready to choose. And once that choice becomes clear, everything that follows may move faster than either of you anticipated. And just when everything inside them begins to settle, another realization rises, softer, deeper, almost like a truth that waited for complete silence before revealing itself. It didn't come with noise, it came with stillness. The kind of stillness where thoughts stop running, and something more honest begins to speak. In that quiet space, they saw something clearly, not just what they feel for you, but what life looks like without you. Let that sink in for a moment. Because this is not a surface-level thought. This is the kind of awareness that shifts direction completely. They imagined continuing forward as they were, keeping distance, maintaining the same patterns, holding back what remained unspoken. And for the first time, it didn't feel right, not confusing, not uncertain, just incomplete. And when something starts to feel incomplete, the mind tries to explain it. But the heart already understands. That's where they are now, not lost, not unsure, but standing in a place where pretending no longer feels comfortable. And this is the turning point they didn't expect. Because everything before this was leading here. Every thought they tried to ignore. Every feeling they tried to downplay. Every moment they told themselves, maybe later. It all led to this quiet realization: later no longer feels right, now begins to matter. Stay with this moment. Because something inside them has shifted from waiting to choosing, not loudly, not dramatically, but firmly. They are starting to understand that some connections are not meant to stay in the background. Some connections are meant to be experienced fully, and what they feel with you has crossed that line. You may not hear this directly yet, but they have already admitted it to themselves. And once someone admits something that deeply, their actions begin to follow, even if slowly, even if carefully. Now here's where it becomes even more meaningful. They are not just thinking about reaching out. They are thinking about how to do it in a way that feels real. Because this is no longer about impulse. This is about intention. And intention carries weight. It shapes words. It shapes timing. It shapes the energy behind every step they take toward you. You might notice this soon. A shift that feels different from before. Not rushed, not uncertain, but steady, like someone who has finally stopped questioning and started understanding. And when someone moves from questioning to understanding, everything becomes clearer. Even the risks they once feared begin to feel smaller. Even the doubts that once held them back begin to fade. Because clarity doesn't eliminate fear, but it makes moving forward feel more important than staying still. Pause here, because this next part matters more than anything else. They are realizing that what they feel for you is not something they can replace, not something they can distract themselves from, not something that will simply fade with time. And that realization carries a quiet urgency. Not pressure, but importance. The kind of importance that says, this matters, and I don't want to miss it. And when someone reaches that point, their choices begin to align with what truly matters. You may have felt moments where something almost happened between you. Moments where words were close, but never spoken. Moments where something deeper was present, but left unexpressed. Those moments were not incomplete. They were preparing a space where everything could finally come together, when the timing was right. And now, the timing is shifting, not suddenly, but steadily, Like a door that has been closed for a long time, slowly beginning to open. And as it opens, they are stepping closer, with more awareness, with more honesty, with more readiness than before. Now listen carefully. They are also becoming aware of something else. Something they didn't fully understand until now. They are beginning to see how much you have already given, without asking for anything in return. Your patience, your presence, your quiet understanding, all the things that may have gone unnoticed before, are now being seen clearly. And when someone begins to truly see what was always there, it changes how they value it, it changes how they approach it, it changes how they respond to it. And this is why their next step will not feel the same as anything before, because it will come from a place of awareness, not confusion, from intention, not hesitation, from recognition, not doubt. Take a breath here. Because something important is waiting for you, and it's closer than it appears. They are no longer standing still. They are moving, internally, emotionally, and soon, externally. And when that movement becomes visible, it will not feel random. It will feel like something that was always building, finally reaching its moment. But just as everything begins to align, there is one final piece they are facing. One last truth they must accept within themselves. And once they do, the distance between you may close faster than either of you expected. And just before everything begins to surface, there is a quiet pause, almost like the world itself is holding its breath for a single, delicate moment. Because the final piece, the one they've been circling around without fully touching, is now right in front of them. Not hidden anymore, not avoidable, just waiting to be accepted. It's not about what they feel. It's not even about what they've realized. It's about what they are ready to honor. There's a difference. Feeling can be silent. Realization can stay internal. But honoring something requires movement. And this is where they stand now, at the edge of a choice that feels both simple and life-shifting at the same time. A choice that quietly asks them, will you step forward, or will you let this remain unfinished? Let that question echo for a second. Because it's the same question that changes everything. They've spent time understanding. They've spent time reflecting. They've even allowed themselves to feel what they once resisted. But now, something deeper is asking for expression. And this is where their hesitation begins to dissolve. Not because they suddenly became fearless, but because staying silent now feels heavier than speaking. And when silence becomes heavier than truth, movement begins. You may not see it immediately, but something has already shifted in the way they carry this connection. It's no longer something they can keep at a distance. It's no longer something they can label as later. It has become present, important, real. And once something becomes real in that way, that what they're about to say carries truth. And truth has a way of changing the space it enters. Take a breath here. Because the next part is where everything becomes clear. The message they've been holding. The one they told others. The one they kept from you. It's not complicated. It's not hidden behind layers. It's something simple, but deeply felt. They've been trying to describe you. Trying to explain what you are to them. Trying to make sense of why you stand out in a way no one else does. And after everything, after all the thinking, all the conversations, all the quiet moments, they've realized something they can no longer ignore. You are not just someone in their life. You are someone who changed the way their life feels. Pause. Not loudly, Not suddenly, but in a way that stayed, in a way that didn't fade, in a way that kept returning, again and again, until it became impossible to overlook. And that's the truth they've been carrying. That's the message they've been speaking around, but not directly to you. And now, they don't want to keep it unspoken anymore, because keeping it hidden feels more distant than expressing it. And they don't want distance. Not now, not after everything they've realized. Feel that shift. It's no longer about hesitation, it's about alignment. Their thoughts, their feelings, their awareness, all pointing in the same direction, toward you, and toward the moment where everything finally becomes clear between you. But here's the final layer, the part that brings everything together in a way you might not expect. They're not just ready to speak, they're ready to be honest, fully, without holding back, without softening it, without leaving pieces unsaid, because they understand now that what they feel deserves to be expressed completely, and that moment is not something far away anymore. It's approaching, quietly, steadily, and when it arrives, it won't feel forced, it won't feel sudden, it will feel like something that was always meant to be said, finally finding its voice. Stay with this feeling, because the next moment, the one where this message truly reaches you, is not just about hearing words, it's about understanding something that has been building all along, and when it does, you'll realize this was never just a message, it was a turning point.